Hello and welcome back to online English class. Hope you guys are doing well today. It is Monday, April 6th. Last week we completed our work on Unit 5 and completed the Unit 5 test. So this week we're going to be beginning our final unit of the year, Unit 6, which deals with synthesis. All right, the process of using a collection of voices and secondary sources in order to support one's argument. All right, so we're going to begin class by talking through the top of the week announcements. Then we're going to look at your quarter 4 essay prompt, and then we are going to complete our class by looking at lecture 1, which answers 4 questions about the nature of synthesis. What is it? Why do we do it? How does it happen? How do we engage in that process? And how are we going to use it over the next month and a half? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, this week we're going to look at Lecture 1. That's going to be today. We're going to look at Lecture 2 tomorrow, how to analyze a source properly. And we're going to begin working on OTN 1, which analyzes and evaluates a series of sources for our first conversation, which is going to center around this common idea, the American Jeremiad. We'll unpack all of that later. All right, what you need to get done in the next few days is you need to send me an email confirming your completion of OTN 8 and OTN 9 by Thursday of this week. Okay, you need to read Chapter 4, which synthesizes, or which is all about synthesizing sources by next Monday. And you need to begin OTN 1, which is going to require you to analyze the sources included in the American Jeremiad conversation, which we'll get into, again, as I said earlier, later this week. All right, so the ongoing assignment, the centerpiece of the course in these last month and a half is your major synthesis essay, which has been significantly streamlined because of the sort of abnormal scenario that we find ourselves in, but it's still going to require you to do a great deal of reading and some solid research in order to develop a multi-draft research-based argument supporting a central claim about an issue that you choose. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that prompt in detail. All right, so this is the Honors English 3 quarter 4 essay. It is a synthetic argument. All right, now what we mean by synthetic argument is an argument that brings together, that's what the word synthesis or synthetic means, something that has been brought together. It brings together outside resources in order to support an individual's perspective or position about an issue. Okay? The issue needs to be contentious, as all arguments must be, or else you're not having an argument. Okay? So, to put it a little more simply, what you're going to do is you're going to write if you're in the honors class, you're going to write a 5 to 7 page research-based argumentative essay defending a thesis that develops a claim of policy, value, or fact. Okay, if you're in the regular course, your essay is just it's the same basic essential task, which makes a lot of sense. All right, you're not going to write like a sonnet or something, right? You're going to write just a little bit shorter research-based essay. Now, the honors course needs to directly quote from 4 sources, at least, whereas the regular student needs to quote from at least 3. All right, the sources, no matter if you're in honors or regular, still need to be reputable, still need to be relevant, still need to be sufficient, still need to be accurately used, but you just have to use a few less. All right, so again, those are our distinguishers for the honors course and the regular course. Obviously, the rigor with which I grade your work will also be an important distinguishing factor. Now, a couple notes that you need to pay attention to. Do not cite from things like SparkNotes. Do not cite from things like Wikipedia. Why? Because Wikipedia is from the devil? No, I love Wikipedia. I'm on Wikipedia like multiple times a day reading random stuff. But Wikipedia is not curated professionally enough in order to be a reliable resource. A lot of the stuff on there is right and interesting and diligent, but some of it is wrong. Okay, so in academic discourse, you just can't cite Wikipedia articles. You can use them as jumping off points. You can pursue the links that are embedded in the Wikipedia articles in the footnotes, but you cannot cite Wikipedia articles in your argument. Okay, perfect. Um, the essay needs to be double spaced. It needs to be typed. It needs to be have 1-inch margins. Okay, all this stuff is standard stuff that you should already know. When is it due? It's due about 5 to 6 weeks from now. I'm not going to give you a hard and fast due date quite yet because obviously I want to be adaptable. I want it to be fluid so that it's best for you and best for me and best for everybody. But it's going to be around 5 to 6 weeks from now. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the prompt before we jump into lecture 1, all right, and transition away from the prompt. All right, in this essay, you're going to develop a research-based argument about an issue of your choosing that is relevant in contemporary American society. All right, that sentence is intentionally incredibly broad. All right, you can talk about anything that is worth discussing, that is contentious, and that is relevant in contemporary American society. Uh, Again, you can talk about things that deal with American society as a whole, like large national political issues, or you could talk about issues that deal with your specific corner of American society in Marion County, in Ocala, in your school community, even. All right. Some of my favorite kinds of essays that I get are essays about issues that are directly related to this school and the school's policies. All right. If you develop a research-based, logical essay about something that has to do with your own community, a claim of policy about your own community, that is a that's a great approach to this assignment. Okay, that does exactly what I'm asking you to do, which is to be reasonable, develop reasonable opinions about things that matter, right? Things that are contentious. Okay, those kinds of policies matter in your life, so I'm certainly willing to listen to a well-reasoned argument about them. All right, so your central claim can be a claim of policy, like I just discussed, something about the way that we apply our principles, the policies that guide our actions. That's a question of wisdom. All right, you could write a claim of value about the value of a thing. All right, for example, right, I've had essays in the past evaluating the benefits of the Black Lives Matter movement. I've had essays evaluating the cultural significance or benefits of bro country, a sort of subgenre of country music. Which is really funny because it was a very serious, very thoughtful essay about this kind of unserious genre of music. You know, sipping Bud Light on the back of the old tailgate, right? Whatever. Again, I've had essays evaluating the cultural significance of Disney princesses. I've had essays about so many different things. All right, so you need to choose something that is relevant, that is contentious, and you need to persuade me, all right, that it is a relevant, valid issue to be discussing. Okay, that's part of what's happening in the essay. And finally, you could write a claim of fact essay. That's about the validity or truth of a thing. Okay, now the students beware. All right, oftentimes this can be oversimplified. All right, I do not want an essay that says the Vietnam War era was a complicated period of American history. That is not a contentious claim of fact. That is something that every person who knows anything about the 1960s and the Vietnam War knows. It was definitely a contentious era. It was definitely a complicated time period. But an example of a claim of fact that's like an actual valid claim of fact, a contentious claim of fact, would be to say something like, for example, the argument made in Dr. Pete Nato's book, Dutiful Men, in which he argues that it is true, or he argues a claim of fact, that in the early part of the 20th century and the middle of the 20th century, American culture changed the way that it thought or conceived of manhood and masculinity. All right. Throughout the course of the book, what Dr. Nato does is he engages with far more than 4 sources, okay, hundreds of sources that he uses throughout the course of the book, throughout each chapter of the book, to develop and support his central thesis. And that central thesis is illustrating the ways in which America's national conception of manhood developed in the early parts of the 20th century, specifically during the Eisenhower era. Okay, so obviously I'm not looking for hundreds of pages of well-researched PhD published historical writing, but could you write a miniature version of that if you wanted to? Could you write a historical-based essay? Absolutely. All right. You can write basically whatever you want. All right. You could write a whole argument about the Kaepernick issue. Okay, a whole argument about that. And just develop that issue, that editorial that you already started, and support it with outside resources, and develop your reasoning in a much more sophisticated and drawn out way. All right, you can do whatever you want, is what I'm trying to say, but it needs to be relevant. It needs to be an issue that is genuinely compelling. Okay. So that's what your prompt is. We'll get into the points of style and the focus points later, but for now, I just wanted to introduce the basics of the assignment that are laid out in this prompt, which is attached on RenWeb for your downloading pleasure. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the content of Lecture 1, which is going to answer 4 questions for us before class ends today. What is synthesis? Why do we use it? How is it deployed? And how am I going to use it in the next month and a half? All right. So the background picture of this slide is significant. I want to explain it for just a second. It's a famous painting. It's called a fresco. It's a painting on a huge wall done by this guy named Raphael during the Renaissance. Okay, the namesake of the Ninja Turtle. Yes. Okay, and in the early 1500s. All right, Raphael was asked to paint this as a depiction of the process that human beings over the course of human history have gone through to try and develop valid forms of knowledge in order to be able to say things, assert things that are true about the world around them, about ethics, about what is good, what is bad, what a person should do, what a person shouldn't do, okay? How the world works, both mathematically, physically, metaphysically. All of these questions are hosted by these thinkers, okay? And these people, these thinkers, right? Like the center figures are Plato and Aristotle. All around them are like Pythagoras, Heraclitus, Orpheus, Homer, Virgil. Aristophanes, all of these famous individuals, famous writers, famous thinkers, Zoroaster, from the ancient world, that all were simply engaged in this ongoing process of trying to say things that were true, trying to say things that were valid, trying to make assertions that were actually reliable. Okay? That's all synthesis is. It's the process of sitting in on an existing conversation, listening in on an existing conversation, and then adding your voice to the conversation after you have listened. Okay? So, to put it a little less metaphorically, to put it a little less allegorically, right? Synthesis is a tool in argumentation that helps rhetors like you develop new, more informed positions about complex topics, using multiple outside resources as springboards for your argument. Okay? So why use an outside resource in argument? Why is this something that we do as rhetoricians, specifically in school? Well, number one, from a rhetorical standpoint, it's pretty obvious. It's meant to cultivate your ethos. It shows that you're willing and able to enter into an existing conversation. It shows that you've listened. It shows that your opinions were not cultivated in a vacuum, but rather that you've done your homework, that you've had your ear to the ground, that you've attempted to pursue a valid position by listening to other people's opinions. Okay? The second thing that it does is it develops the logic of your argument. It helps you support the validity of your assertions. Okay, you can use outside resources to help evidence your opinions, to support the premises or assertions on which your central claim is based or built on. Okay. Um, you could also use an outside resource to argue against. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that you can use outside resources, but basically, right, they develop your ethos and they develop your logos. So both of these need to be directed to your audience according to the rhetorical situation. All right. In other words, an outside resource is only effective insofar as it is thought of as effective by your audience. Now, who is your audience for the next month and a half? Me, a teacher, a rhetoric teacher in school, in an English class. All right. So, what kind of resources should you use to help develop your argument? I would counsel you to use published, well edited, unbiased resources. Okay. Why? Because I value, as your audience member in this rhetorical situation, I value valid resources. Okay. So don't throw me some blog post from some Joe Smo or Jane Smain out on the interwebs saying whatever they want to say about whatever topic that you are discussing. I want credible speakers published in reliable, notable publications. Doesn't mean you can't disagree with what's in those documents. You absolutely can, but I just don't, I want to be dealing with an intelligent opinion at least. Right? Okay. How do you engage in this process? Well, first, right, you have to select a contentious topic that's relevant and timely. Now, normally in school, you get a prompt that selects your topic for you, right? In this particular essay, you have to select your topic for yourself. All right. Now, one of the things that students typically get tripped up by is they select a terrible topic, and then that fouls the whole rest of their research process because they're sitting there thinking, why can't I find any arguments about this topic? It's because nobody cares about it. It's because it's not genuinely contentious. All right. The better topics are going to have more things written about them because people care about them. They're contentious. They're relevant. All right. So if you can't find any resources about your topic, it might mean that it's not a contentious topic and it isn't worth writing your essay about. Okay. The second thing you want to do after you establish a good contentious topic is you want to read around the context of the issue. All right. This is an important form of research that establishes a kind of background for your essay. All right. So let me give you an example, a contentious topic from an essay from the past. All right. The value of the Black Lives Matter movement. All right. So that was an essay that I got a couple years ago. Now, 4 in 10 Americans support the Black Lives Matter movement as a socially beneficial movement. 4 in 10. That means about 40% of the population, which means that it's contentious. All right, it divides the population almost in half. It's obviously a topic that was relevant, obviously a topic that was reported on widely and relevant to many people's lives and experiences. Okay, so it's a good selection. Is this a valuable movement? Is this a good thing for our society? Now, in order to develop that, in order to answer that evaluatory question, the first thing that the student needs to do is just understand the context of the issue. Know about what Black Lives Matter actually is. Know about what kind of situations led to the existence of the movement. Know about what they say they are. Know about what individuals affiliated with the movement have done. All right, you need to know the context. You need to know all about the issue that you've decided that you're going to write about. You have to become an expert on that opinion, on that issue. You have to listen first. Okay, then you can start engaging with actual arguments about the issue or voices that are specifically relevant to the issue at hand. All right, so background or context reading is a little bit different than evaluating the arguments that deal with the same central question that you are exploring. Once you know your context, then you can start engaging with other people's opinions about the topic. Okay. Fourth, take some research notes as you are doing steps 2 and 3. Document the process. All right. In other words, have some on the record notes. Okay. And then finally, that's whenever you can develop your central claim about the issue that offers a fresh perspective about your topic, your perspective, your position on the topic. Okay? So, after you read the context, after you have engaged with voices that actually are developing arguments about your contentious issue, after you've done all that, that's when you should develop your claim. Okay? You don't get to start talking until you've listened for a protracted period of time. Okay? That's an important thing to understand about the nature of research writing, okay? Which is a huge part of a college education, by the way, research writing, and also a high school education. All right, finally, how are you going to use synthesis in the coming month and a half? All right, well, first, you're going to write a multi-draft research-based argument about a contentious issue relevant in American culture that we already discussed in your quarter 4 essay prompt. And the second way is you're going to write impromptu synthetic essays, all right, with a collection of documents that I'm going to give you, all right, that illustrates your ability to reason through and read and understand a variety of resources, perspectives, and positions on an issue, and then respond to a prompt that asks you to take a stand on something that ties together all of those documents, okay? Your Unit 6 test will be an impromptu synthetic essay showing your ability to reason through a complex topic. Your quarter 4 essay is your multi-draft research-based argument. Okay, that is the end of our work for today. I hope you guys are doing excellently. And we're going to pick up some more information relevant to you working on your synthetic essay tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great day.